Hey everyone, this is Mike Gormley. Coincidentally, it's called the Mike Gormley Show, and I have a special guest today in singer, songwriter, actor, voiceover, philosopher, and etc. Dan Navarro. Hey Dan,
Well, you, Mike. It's good to see you.
good to see you, and we can see you in person pretty soon. Aren't you in the caves pretty soon?
I play McCabe's Guitar Shop on on Saturday, June 8th, about a week and a half away.
Oh, nice.
It's my
Well,
annual show, and this one's going to be kind of special. It's the return of Lowen and Navarro. Sam
uh,
Lowen will be doing four songs, playing Eric Lowen's parts, and
really?
Claire Lowen will be doing the same four songs, singing Eric's parts. I'll be singing the harmonies from the old days for the first time in 17 years. And or not 17, not 10 years, 12 years. Um, all this is to say is it's like, oh my God, here we go.
Yeah. Well, and is that call for heavy rehearsal, or do they already know about how to do it?
Yeah, we're doing a rehearsal. I like to not rehearse, but I don't need to throw them in the deep end that way. So
Yeah.
we're gonna do a rehearsal and practice the songs and make sure that everything is the way it needs to be.
So the Horizon line is playing behind us right now. What's the story on that song since we're listening to it?
You know, it became the title track of the record I put out in 2022. I was working with a guy named Hank Linderman, who's an engineer, musician, producer who worked with Chuck Plotkin, had recorded America and Firefall and Timothy B. Schmidt and lots of other people. We became friends through my friend Steve Postell, and we sat around to write one day, and this thing popped out about why do we keep going? Why, at this stage of my life, when if it's about the money, fair enough. But to me, it's not really about the money. It's about identity and energy. So I still tour close to 100 dates a year. I still put thousands of miles in on the road. 35 years into my touring career, and so it was really trying to explain, why do I keep doing this? I can't slow down. My wheels are turning. Um, don't matter if I'm wasting time. I'm going to set my sights on the next horizon line because I just, I've loved the things I've done, and I like what I'm doing. But my favorite day is tomorrow. My favorite
Mhm.
gig is the next one.
Well, there are people out there waiting for you, man. You got to go back.
Well, exactly. I mean, I've toyed. Well, not even toyed. I haven't toyed with retirement. I have been thinking of how do I open up some time so I can do some other things because I'm over a particular age when people who do what I do, touring recording artists, are thinking of retiring. Oftentimes because they don't have the energy, sometimes because they don't have the audience. I'm lucky that I have both, um, and I love doing it. But over 70 years old, you start thinking, where's the soft landing? And for me, I really want to figure out what I would like to do next. I know that you know, I've been neck deep in advocacy for 25 years, and I'm getting very deeply involved in the AI issue for songwriters and actors. I mean, I'm still on the SAG-AFTRA board. I'm on the Unclaimed Royalties Committee of the Mechanical Licensing Collective, and I just became a trustee on what's called the, um, oh my God, it's the industry. Uh, it's the Industry Advancement Cooperative Fund, the IACF, which is a SAG-AFTRA thing associated with industry to foster things like independent filmmaking and animal care on set and certain initiatives that don't fall squarely inside the union thing. And it's a major, major responsibility. So I'm having a lot of fun doing that sort of stuff. Idle time doesn't suit me, but what's next?
Hmm.
Or am I going to keep just lather, rinse, repeat on this road thing? So that's been occupying my head a bit.
But you've always had advocacy on the side. You've always, I mean, you go back to Folk Alliance International. You were president
Right.
of that for quite a while. Before that, you were always with um, um, SAG after. I mean, you've been with them for a long time. And
Long.
some,
I'm looking at between AFTRA and SAG-AFTRA, 23 years right now.
yeah,
So yeah, it's something I've always enjoyed doing. But it really is about, I guess it's a matter of if you've got a, whether you have a speed bump coming or a tight curve or a cliff, I kind of want to know in advance, what might I do? As opposed to just like, oh God, here we are. I mean, I could wake up one day and my body won't be able to do the road. Then what? I'd rather start thinking of it in advance so that the shift is quick and easy
It's
and I
smooth.
got and smooth and I have my head behind it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, so that's really where my brain's been going. Plus, frankly, I have more reasons to be home than I used to. I finally bought a house after 25 years of not owning one, and I liked it so much I bought another one. I left LA. I don't live in the Los Angeles area anymore, and that made me able to afford it. I moved to the Palm Springs area and got a second home up in Idlewild, where it's cooler in the summertime and beautiful. And I have a companion now that it means that staying off the road has benefits it didn't used to have.
Hmm.
So there are reasons, except, the overriding reason to keep doing it is I love it.
Yeah, well,
So,
that's the thing. And you you got more to give us, whether you like it or not. There's fans want to hear more from you and can be a little demanding in their in their approach. Um,
well, and life's tough that they want you, that's the way I look at it is if I'm lucky enough that they want me to do it, I'll do it. Um, but I'm also part of what it is certainly the message has always been part of how I do this. And the message to my generation that you're only done when you want to be is
mhm.
something I
Yeah.
want to put out there. But I'm also talking to schools, to young people who are looking, especially at the music business, and going, how does this work anymore? And
Mhm.
I don't so much know how it works. I mean, I do, but I don't know how somebody becomes successful and makes a living at it these days compared to when I did it, because there were records, there were there was radio, there were mechanisms designed to generate income. Those mechanisms are largely dismantled. There is still money being made, but you've got to operate at a certain level. So part of what I try to convey to students is how do you get to the core of expression that makes what you're creating worth listening to? How do you get people to go,
But there
I
are
have to
but
do
there are
this?
tons of people. It's funny you bring it up. I was going to ask you about this. There's just, let's say, singer-songwriters out there, hundreds of them, thousands of them, who are not signed but keep on going.
Mhm.
Are they being foolish? Is it just got to do it and therefore let's go? I mean, you're out there. What's it like out there with you've got a situation where you've had hit records, so there's income there, and you can do voiceover. You've set yourself up for it.
Right.
But somebody starting out today, or even in the last 10 years, it's a rough road. And I'm just wondering, there's great talent out there. What are you telling them? They must ask you.
Well, and they do, and a lot of them are better at figuring out what the new vehicles are. They're more adept at utilizing, the streaming services or the Patreon patron sorts of sites. They're a little
Hmm.
better at, I mean, well, we got good at crowdfunding before it existed, Eric Lowen and myself, back
Yeah,
in
you
the early
did.
OOs. We crowdfunded before any of that Kickstarter, GoFundMe, Indiegogo, any of that stuff existed. What it really still amounts to is if you're telling a story that matters to you, you'll find other people to whom it matters. And building that congregation is really what it's about. Now, the mechanisms still exist. How do you monetize YouTube? How do you monetize something like a Patreon? How much do you play live? Touring is really hard. I tell people do satellite tours, go out in your area, build that up, then pick an area where you can stay with a friend and build that one and start playing a game and connect the dots. Um, Organizations like Folk Alliance help because there are young artists out there that are getting noticed. And there does reach a point, especially in the utilization of social media, where you can crack it and start gaining followers who will contribute to what you do. It is a harder job than ever, um, but it's doable. The main thing I tell the younger people as they're learning that is tell your stories, tell them well, tell them deeply, and people will come to you. Because if you move yourself, if you say something of value to yourself that you are emotionally charged,
Mhm.
people will find you. People say, well, what do you want? What are you looking for? And I said, I want to be moved. I don't want to be impressed. I want to be moved. Well, how do I move you? Move you. If you move you, you'll move me.
Yeah.
And so it's about honing their message. The systems out there, they're a little better at it than I am. I mean, I do utilize social media very, very heavily. I did it myself and I did it decently. Frankly, 2 years ago, I hired somebody. So
Mhm.
I love it when someone sends me a note going, "Oh man, I know, I feel the same way," and I got to write them going, what did I say? I didn't do it. Amy Ryerson did it, and then they send me like a screen capture. Go, oh, that, because I don't always see it.
Well,
But the
yeah, well,
system,
you and Eric did, to interrupt just for a second, because you
sure,
referred to it many years ago. You fans kept coming up to you guys after you were off a label and you were out there uh, treading the boards, as they say. Um, I remember you saying fans come up to us and ask, "How can we help?" And you
right.
would politely go, "Oh, thank you, that's very nice." And one day, either you or Eric, it dawned on you, or maybe both, why don't we just answer them how they can help?
Yeah,
And that's when money started coming in. And one man in particular, just I think it was like six figures or something, but it was
it was one gentleman from the Annapolis area contributed 6 figures,
yeah.
and two different people contributed rather substantial 5 figures. Donald Davidoff had the idea. Our friend Donald Davidoff said, "I want to start an angels program." And it was, and I'm surprised no one's used that URL for Indiegogo, Kickstarter, GoFundMe, whatever the mechanisms are out there. He started an angels program. We put it out there, and people contributed, and it was like we raised enough money to make 2 albums and to fund a video that and a TV commercial that nobody saw. I mean, it wasn't as successful as it could have been, except we got to make the music. At least one of those records is in my opinion our top 2 albums that we ever made, and we got to keep going. It didn't hurt that Eric got sick, because that also meant we've got a time limit. We don't have all the time in the world to do this. And so we put out, after going 6 years without making a record, we put 3 records out in 4 years.
Hmm.
And so we really got on our horses and started pumping it as much as we could. I'm still operating on the energy from that, but it's also, when you're running out of time, you operate differently. It took me 10 years from the time Eric retired until my first album came out. It took 5 years to make that record. The second record took 25 days. I went back to Jim Scott. I love the record I made with Steve Postell. It did a fabulous job. Very proud of it. But I knew that Jim operated quickly. So I went to Jim in the middle of 2021 and I said, "What do you think?" He said, "Let's do it." And we did 12 days in the middle of 2021 and then 13 more at the very beginning of 2022, and got that record out middle of 2022, uh, to the best reviews of my career, to the highest stream rate ever. And, I've sold enough. I'm not sure I've made my money back yet, but money isn't everything.
Well, we're going into speaking of making money, we're going into a commercial in a little bit. We're going into a song with it's got the greatest name and it's a great song, but the name, if you had nothing but the name, it would have been it's called She Dreams in Music. That's poetry. That's just give us like a really little snippet of what the song's about, where the name leads you.
I was visiting with a friend in Annapolis, Maryland, Robert Dale Klein, and he had a painting on his wall his wife had given him, this sort of cartoon-like painting of a man conducting with music scores and words and stuff. And he says, "I call it dreaming in music."
Hmm.
And I went, "Whoa, dude, she dreams in music." And we were off to the races. We wrote it in an afternoon, but it was inspired by his painting and the title he had given the painting, because that wasn't his official title. He says, "I call this dreaming in music."
Well, it's a great title. It's a great song. We'll listen to a bit. We'll go into a commercial and then we'll come back. This is the Mike Gormley Show, and we are with Dan Navarro today.